In 1981, the United Nations established the International Day of Peace on September 21st, a day for us all to pause our busy lives, take a breath, look at our neighbors, and to be at peace. A day to celebrate our differences, to hug our neighbors. A day to celebrate humanity on this vast planet. In 2020, we need this moment more than ever. A moment of respite from the fighting, conflicts, and chaos we're all going through. Join us live on IBM TV on September 21st from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time to take a moment to celebrate our differences and join together in our virtual community for the International Day of Peace.
Hi friends, good evening, and this is your host Ankit Khanelwal joining you from Delhi, India, and today we are celebrating the International Day of Peace, and I would like to welcome our panelist Willie Hill joining us from Australia, and we have Rakesh Krishnan joining us from Hong Kong, and we have Anandmai Kumar joining us from Delhi. Good evening to everyone. I think we are in the same time zone similarly, so it's evening for us. Good morning to people who will be joining us later on the show, and we are doing a special show on International Day of Peace, so that's the plan for the day, and we are starting it at around 8:30 a.m. EST, which is 6 p.m. IST, and we'll continue doing the show for next 12 hours, and the last show will end up at around 9 p.m. EST, so that's the lineup for the day. We'll start with discussing about what peace means to everyone from different countries. People will be joining and taking their opinions and stuff like that. After that, we'll have 11 to 1 session with Good News podcast. They will be sharing the news with their celebrities around the world, talking about peace, and in ties with a lot of other people around the world. And then from 1 to 4, we have Nick Palavida joining us from Raleigh, North Carolina, and he'll be talking about peace and how economics is also valuable while having a peaceful society. After that, we have a 4 to 7 open session with all our producers around the world discussing about peace. And then from 7 to 9, it's kind of a peaceful music from around the world. So that's the lineup for the day, and I would like to congratulate and welcome everyone on International Day of Peace. How are you doing today?
Good.
So we'll start with Willie. Willie, what peace means to you, and what do you think about peace as an International Peace Day which we are celebrating?
Peace is freedom to be yourself. We just have to look around the world, and wherever we see refugees, where the refugees came from, there was no peace. So refugee and peace are very interlinked or interwoven, if you want for a better word. Okay? Look at the long line of people that walk from South America going through Mexico, because there was no peace where they were, and they were looking for peace. Okay, look at the people in the Middle East trying to get to Europe and get to UK, the refugees, because there's no peace where they were. There was a lot of hardship. So that's my equation of peace. Peace is not just living in a free society. It also is entwined with economic freedom for you to have a decent job that can sustain you. Thank you. That is my connotation of peace.
That's an interesting opinion, Willie, from Australia. And I think refugees are a part of society, so we just have to have some kind of maybe a policy or something like that for refugee, because people are migrating from here and there, and that's a part of the culture. But I'm not sure because of our leadership, and maybe that's why we are seeing it from different eyes. But I think, Rakesh, what do you think about peace?
I think peace is enjoying one's individuality, nation's individuality, at the same time accepting the the wonderful panorama of the world. You know, I've lived in so many different continents, and each has got its beauties, and every continent has its drawbacks. Let's focus on the positive.
True.
Let's look with empathy and understanding and rationality. Try to understand another person's hopes, and I think that itself will bring about peace by itself. That's what peace means to me.
That's another amazing thought, and I think it's more about respecting humanity, respecting people around the world, and making sure that everyone is getting the basic amenities. And it's because during this pandemic we have realized that everyone is equal, be it from America to Australia to India to Asia. I mean, because everyone is suffering the same thing, and balancing of life is more important. That's what I understand. I'll switch on to Anandmay Kumar. Anandmay, what peace means to you?
So, peace for me is understanding our responsibilities and taking the ownership of it, whatever action we do, and just trying to do our bit in whatever situation. Uh, we always run after our fundamental rights, but we always forget our fundamental duties. So, just agreeing with what Willie and Rakeshji said, that freedom on your financial front, and accepting the flaws of the continent or the country and the self. So yeah, understanding our responsibilities and trying to do as much as we can. So that's peace for me.
That's amazing, and I think it's more about respecting humanity in life. Yes, Billy, you want to say something?
I said that was very good, very good. I like that. And accepting responsibility for your part in this whole scheme of things. Thank you.
Yes, that is something which is very important, because all of us, like to talk about what others should do. We have to see what we can do first. That's if you think of John F. Kennedy's famous lines, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I think if we now apply that to the world and see if each nation says that, ask not what we can get from another nation, but what we can do for them, I think there will be no question of friction. It is when we take sides, make divisions, that's when peace gets broken. I think if we just understand that finally we're all human, we've all got our fears, we've all got our happiness, and if we can just work actively, it won't come automatically. Peace is order. Order does not come automatically. It has to be worked for. So, or each one of us, before we post that thing on social media, which could be divisive, we need to think 100 times, is this really contributing to world peace? Before it is judgmental, we need to think again. Is this worth putting on social media? I know for myself, that is what I pledge to do. I want not to do anything which is offensive and gratuitously offensive. That is the way I plan to live the rest of my life. I'm also coming close to my 60th birthday in 4 days' time. So I want this rest of my life to be very peaceful and no world war or anything. Yeah.
I would just like to know, on a different aspect, that when everyone wants peace, then why is we are still, still talking about peace and all this stuff? Because everyone wants peace at some point of time, but there's still a lot of debate and all those things going around.
I was about to answer this after, I wanted to say this, but you asked the question.
Yeah.
From self peace to the world peace, we all have expectations from others which we need to do, or whatever we want. Then there is a blame game when those expectations are not fulfilled, or then there is in a very layman terms, snatching going on, that if I want something from you, you are not giving it to me. Just as siblings also, I want comics from my brother, he's not giving it to me. I will ask him once, twice, thrice, and then I will go and snatch it from him. What will happen? Either he will slap me, cry, or my mom has to intervene or do something like that. And that happens, that is for your personal peace. Or you are expecting from self. And then again, if you're not fulfilling your own expectation, you are not at peace. You are just running here and there. And that is happening on a bigger platform on the world peace also. Some countries expecting something from you, and more from a place of power, more from a place of ego, not from a place of empathy and deserving nature. So if I come to you and say I want this, and then I say I deserve this, the both in the both things I am expecting something from you, but then I'm putting it in a different way, where I'm putting my empathy over my ego and power.
Totally agree with you. What this COVID exposed for us is we got hijacked along the way. It was simmering there, below the surface. But with the COVID-19, this thing just came up. And lo and behold, we find Karen. And she was all over the place.
Ankit, what is your view of peace? Now, we haven't heard your view of peace.
Yeah.
So for me, it's more about, satisfaction, happiness, joy, love, live and let live, and respecting everyone, respecting all the religion. And I'm also concerned about, a lot of people talk about peace, but as Anand might say, are they doing it from themselves? Because peace starts from you, and then you can pass on to someone else. It's kind of an emotion. It's kind of a power, but a lot of people talk about it, but it's difficult to execute at certain levels because for me, peace is everyone's mindset, satisfaction, and what they can enjoy without any arguments. We disagree on a lot of stuff, but that's fine. That's the way of life. That's democracy. But it's not about that. If I don't agree with you, I will start doing something else which is inappropriate or which is unethical. So for me, peace is at this point of time. If you ask me, peace is happiness. Peace is stay calm and get everyone be united and stay healthy and all this stuff. Because I think peace is also changing over a period of time. Initially, it's all about what we were having during our 40s and 50s, and in fact in India there is a grudge that we got independent on 1947. Before that, there was something else and all this stuff. But I think at this point of time in digital era, peace is happiness for you and your family, and how you can protect your livelihood and stuff like that. For me, that's peace, and that includes environment as well, because we always looking for a peaceful environment. But if we don't create it, how will you get it? And that's very much possible in India because everyone wants to go to a place where there is peace. So, and if you want
all
to
the
do,
hills are crowded.
Yeah.
Instead of going to a place where there is peace, if we work together, it needs leadership to work together to make peace wherever we are.
So,
See? And it means going out of your comfort zone, going out of most of us take professions which we love, but moving out of those professions and also working in public life to bring some degree of responsibility to the people who are executing roles in public life. We need to put pressure. It means talking to your local MLA or member of parliament, or even perhaps becoming a member of parliament at some stage. I know that is difficult in a very large country with a huge democracy like India. It involves a lot of money, and we see, but in a small country like New Zealand, there's a hope. So I'm hoping to be also involved in public life in New Zealand, and I think that if we have smaller countries, we will have greater involvement in public life. I wonder, because unless we work for peace, it's not going to happen. In physics, they say the entropy of the universe always increases. Entropy is disorder. Disorder is exactly the opposite of peace. That is nature's law. It keeps on increasing. If we have to fight it, if we want peace, if we want order, we have to work for it. There is effort into distance that needs to be done. So that is that's the physics of it. I'm a physics graduate, so I think in those terms, and I think that we do need to work at it. It's not going to come automatically.
No,
I totally agree with you, Rakesh. So at home, what I'm going to do is my address, and then underneath it, I'm going to write, "Peace lives here."
Be careful. Be careful what are the consequences of that. You'll have to have the responsibility with that.
And
Yes,
my
and of
please,
course, but that is good. What you're saying is right. That is what we need to do. We can't do anything which is within our comfort zone. So we do need to talk about peace. We need to talk about universality of human desires. And if you go to a village in India and talk to a person who lives, or in any poor country, even in Africa, the simple things, you ask them, what will make you happy? And when you hear their response, it will shock you how simple their needs are. Now, it will really shock you how simple their needs are and how we are not fulfilling even those simple needs. I worked, I was in, touch with the Sisters of Mercy, Mother Teresa's nuns in Rwanda, and they had problems. Like one day they didn't have a gas stove. A simple single burner gas stove. They just didn't have it, and so they were wondering what to do. And when they came to collect the gas, because their gas stove had broken, so at that time, by grace of God, I could provide, so I did so. But that is just a micro nanocosm of what needs to be done. The task is much, much bigger. This was more of a feel good for myself, but I was struck with the imbalance in the contribution between myself, a mere gas stove, and they are giving their lives to look after people. These lovely young ladies giving their lives to look after the poor and deprived. What a huge disparity in the contributions. Mine is minuscule. Theirs is massive.
So, Rakesh, I would like to know, do you think we can teach peace to our kids, or maybe people who don't understand what is peace?
Most important. You need to explain to them, talk to them of the horrors of the World War. In China, for example, in Nanjing, in the 1 month, I think, or in the first few weeks, they killed more people than Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined.
Wow.
200,000 people were killed. One little baby was bayoneted right through and killed her mother. And her little brother was watching that. And that is the witness we have. Do we want our children to face this? When we are lazy about peace, this is the consequence. When one nation thinks it can exploit another nation and use them for its own purposes of whatever crazy idea they had, then this is the consequence. 27 million Russians died, probably as many, or at least 13, 14 million Chinese died. If you just look at, these are the, it is, I don't want to go, let's talk about peace. Let's not talk about war. So we don't, I worry about this because we had a rising Germany. Kevin Rudd, the former Australian Prime Minister, talked about this. He said when there was a rising power with an established power, then you have a high probability of war. What we do need is both of them to work together. They were doing it. Just now we have the same thing. It was Germany and England. Now it's China and USA. What we do need to find is cooperation, not conflict. Nobody benefits from conflict in the long term.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
But I think that our leaders are on a different, dashboard altogether, because they are
small children on an ego trip. They're just like small children on an ego trip,
Absolutely.
It is just so funny, and we need to think before we vote. Sometimes we vote with our fears.
Yes.
I think majoritarianism in both the largest democracies and the most powerful democracy has resulted in election votes cast with fear rather than hope. A majority thinking that we're going to lose our rights, and a minority getting totally scared and going into you go to you put a cat in a corner where you're going to kill it. Even that little cat is dangerous. So if you do that to a minority, this is what you're going to get. Nobody is going to win. It's more than how many years? 47, 49 was when the World War got over. So 55 years, let's say 55 years plus another
65.
Another 20, 75 years, almost a lifetime, and people have forgotten. If you ask my mother, who lived through a world war, my father, who passed away unfortunately, lived through 2 world wars, he would never, he knows the uncertainty, he would never want war. So this is something which we need to think about. I often study about war because I want to know, before I speak in a loose manner, I want to know what are the consequences of war, and it was just words, Hitler's words, whichever dictator's words in the previous war, just words that stirred up a people, stirred up hate, and the consequences are there. Millions died, not 1 or 2 million.
But Rakeshji, we are in a digital era, and we watch a lot of videos either on television or YouTube and stuff like that. And there, peace is not very important. They talk about a lot of other things, and also people are ready to watch war movies and all this stuff. I'm not against that, but how we can cater that? Because I think we need to have more peaceful content and stuff like that, and maybe we need to have more peace heroes, basically, because we always talk about heroes who have fought on wars and stuff like that, but no one talk about Mother Teresa or someone like that. Because
well said, peace heroes. We need peace heroes. That is a beautiful phrase. It's a
if you ask me, I don't know. If you ask me who is the peaceful hero, I don't even have names. After Mother Teresa, maybe I can include Mahatma Gandhi or maybe a couple of more, but we don't know about that. What is happening? So we don't know what's happening.
Our generation, where are they? It is. People look at them. There are people fighting for peace, but today people look at them as if they are the retarded ones. We are the retarded. We who want war are the retarded ones, because we really don't. After having such well-documented wars in the last century, it's not even a century since the wars are over, and still we have. As far as social media is concerned, it's like like when you get a new toy. You don't make the best use of it. I remember before my father had bought a Meccano set from the UK, but before he gave it to me, he gave me several Indian copies so that I could play with it, make all the mistakes I could, and then later on showed me this Meccano set and said, "Now use this, and then follow the books." Hello, how are you, Brendan?
I'm good. Happy World Peace Day.
Happy World Peace Day.
So happy World Peace Day to you, Brendan. And we were discussing about peace. So what peace means to you, Brendan?
Yeah, well, I host the travel show here on IBM TV every every Tuesday. So I think for me, I really equate travel and peace together. I think that going to other places and meeting people who are different than you, and sharing a meal with a different community, different culture, and getting to actually have that kind of intimate conversation with people who are different can help broaden your sense of understanding and your sense of the world, and help you appreciate all the differences that make us wonderful.
That's
Yes,
amazing.
that's lovely. I
That's
totally
lovely.
agree. I totally agree because I've lived in so many different places and met so many wonderful people. I totally agree with you. What I was before I left India and what I am now, there's a world of a difference. And I thank travel for that. Really thank
That-
travel.
Certainly. I think travel is something which will help you. Gain a lot of learning, a lot of understanding, respect, and also exploring how people are living around the world. And I think travel for me is a piece as well, because whenever I go and travel, it's like we are taking a break from our regular life, and then we are just exploring a new life, which is also like us. I mean, people are all similar to us. I mean, it's just a perception that okay, this thing happening in Australia, this thing happening in US, and all those stuff, because we watch a lot of media, and media wants us to inhale what they wanted to throw out. So I think people to people connectivity and talking about them, just understanding the lifestyle and all that stuff. I think it's very peaceful, and I think it's a part of our learning curve as well.
Yeah,
And me,
absolutely. I think that it's it's all about connecting with others and having conversations with others. So 100%.
So
And,
Brandon,
and
if people would like to know, share some peaceful destinations, what would you suggest to them?
Well, I think I have a great list if you want to go to my website, which is down here, thebrandonscott.com. And I have a whole YouTube channel full of playlists of guides for different cities, different places around the world, around the United States, around Europe, South America, you name it. So I think that's the first start, is to kind of poke around there. But no, I think a peaceful vacation or peaceful travel can mean something different for everybody else. I think that you should take the trip that you're excited about and inspires you and makes you happy. And then just along the way, it's in the connections with others, talking to a waiter at a restaurant, chatting with locals on the street, meeting a stranger and engaging with them. That's where I think that's where the peace comes from.
That's wonderful. And we have a special guest joining us from Delhi, Dr. Deepali Garg. Good evening, ma'am. How are you doing? Dr. Deepali, can you hear us? I think
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Yep.
Good evening. How are you?
good evening.
I can
Happy
hear you,
Peace
but can
Day.
you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you are audible now. Yeah.
So, a very warm good evening and greetings on may it descend on us, peace in all forms.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And what does peace means to you?
So, Ankit, what I feel, I choose whether you want to be peaceful or not. You always choose whether you want to be hopeful or not. It's a decision. So, I definitely feel that nothing is more precious and nothing brings more happiness than being at peace. And it is the most basic starting point for advancement. So let me share some wonderful words of the great Buddhist philosopher Daisaku Ikeda, who says that a peaceful life doesn't mean that it's going to be free from toil, turmoil, or toiling or suffering, but it is when you're not swayed by all this, and you're able to maintain your calm in the storm. So you always have to realize that this is also a part of life and this shall also pass away. And if you realize that you don't want to be swayed no matter what happens. So that's the state of true peace and true happiness.
That's a wonderful thought, ma'am.
Superb.
And I think it's more about respecting everyone, and then encouraging everyone to be part of the same society, because we can't differentiate people. And I think peace is for everyone, and this world is for everyone. That's why we are doing World Peace Day? Can you hear us, ma'am? There seems a technical difficulty at Dr. Deepali.
Time
I would like to invite our another guest, Nadine Hack, joining us. Hi, good morning. Nadine, how are you doing?
Hi, good morning.
Hello.
I'm joining you from Switzerland.
Wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good to
So
meet
please tell us about yourself and what peace means to you.
Well, for generations, protesters have been chanting no justice, no peace, just as they're doing today throughout the world in reaction to systemic racism, sexism, classism, and other social ills. But like 400 years ago, in the 1600s, the philosopher Baruch Spinoza, who was an early thinker in the Enlightenment age, said, "It's not just the absence of war, it's a virtue, it's a state of mind, it's a disposition of benevolence, confidence, and justice." And I think what Deepali just said from India about being able to not saying that you don't have struggle or difficulty, but that you keep aiming for things to be better. In the early 20th century, Albert Einstein, the great physicist, that peace is not merely the absence of war, but the presence of justice. And when we work for peace, of course, we want to do everything we can to end the violent conflicts in the world that are just too many innocent people. But we really have to go beyond that. We want to push governments and communities and businesses to become more just in how they treat people. We have to assure that the most fundamental conditions of life, access to food, water, heat, housing, health, education, and other basic human needs, including freedom, are met for all people everywhere. And I think those of us who believe in peace really have to be advocates of those various causes. And it's why I'm so excited by the youth-led global movements we're seeing right now. Because they really recognize that they have to. They're not waiting for governments. They're organizing grassroots on. They're tapping into the power of grassroots active, and they're also advocating. I mean, they're lobbying for policy change. It's very exciting to me to see what youth are doing now, and me playing my role in this long relay race toward peace, freedom, justice.
That's a wonderful thought, and thank you very much for joining us on International Day of Peace, and thank you for all those interesting opinions shared from Switzerland. And I would like to invite Dr. Sanjay Dhawan joining us from Delhi. Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
Namaskar. I'm very well. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on the show. And
Thank you, sir.
Very
And
happy
happy
and
International
peaceful World Peace Day. Yes.
Certainly, sir. Thank you, sir. And what peace means to you, sir?
Well, peace for me has a very different meaning. Peace is not just an absence of conflict or turmoil, as Deepali mentioned. It means more than it basically means living in harmony and unison with the nature. Now let us look at the factors which cause absence of peace or discord or conflicts. There are 3 things. One is that human beings have got a greed. There's an immense greed. We want to possess things. We want to possess the resources now. And secondly, there's a lust for power. So these 2 things, the greed for power and greed for resources is the one that is the root cause of absence of peace. We need to understand that this entire universe belongs to everyone, and not just all human beings, but all the animals. Everything is a shared resource. This life, this world is a shared resource. And as long as we don't accept that and don't respect that, there cannot be any peace possible. All the boundaries that are made are all artificial man-made boundaries. all the territories that we occupy are fake, false territories. The nature did not make any territories for us. So we have to overcome this greed and the lust for power. Only then peace is possible. Peace means not just being at calm and peace with oneself, with one's family, with one's community, with one's city, with one's country, with the whole world, with the animals, with the nature. So peace is a very broad concept for me. And it is possible only when we actually start respecting nature and nature's laws and the nature's purpose, what nature made us for. And we, I'm reminded of this song from John Lennon, Imagine. Imagine there is no country. So that was beautifully played. Depicts what peace should be there. And of course, Buddhist philosophy, as Deepali mentioned, we combine them all. We all know what peace is, but somehow we are not able to achieve it. And the reason for that is the greed and the lust for power. We have to overcome that.
That's a wonderful thought, sir. And I think we all agree with whatever you are saying. And it's a peace lists a lot of things. I mean, peace is a world to us, and then we have to keep on doing a lot of peaceful things, and also trying to learn and teach people, and especially our kids, what peace means to them, because they also would like to know what happened in the past and what's happening now. And we need a lot of peace heroes as well, because we know a lot of war heroes, we have sports heroes, and glamour heroes and all those stuff. But when you talk about peace heroes, I'm not sure. I mean, if we know anyone, and especially during this generation. So I think
there should not be need for peace heroes. Peace heroes would mean if there is a war, there is a conflict. Only then there is a peace hero. If there is peace always, there would not be any peace hero required. See, when the European Union was formed, I was very, very hopeful and optimistic, and that came as a very, very positive step forward, that the entire Europe, all the countries came together and gave up their boundaries. People could move across anywhere, people could live anywhere, people could work anywhere. One unified currency all across Europe. But sadly, it is that experiment, a noble experiment, has met with failure. Again, because of individual countries' greed and their greed and need to keep the territory to themselves, to keep their resources to themselves.
No, I certainly agree, sir. But I'm not sure what about the European because that's between those countries in Europe. But according to me, why I'm saying peaceful heroes, because a lot of people don't understand what is peace, and if we have more people to create a lot of awareness about peace and talk about peace, that's what we require at this point of time. That's what we think. And peace means for us, you are a peace hero. You have done a lot of tremendous job during the COVID-19 pandemic and stuff like that. And so is Dr. Deepali and a lot of people. So they are doing amazing work. In fact, we have listened a lot of stories from doctors. They have been doing, double shift or triple shift, working for, fighting during the pandemic, and also they're not charging the fees and all those stuff. So that is also part of peaceful thing. Why can't we discuss about that? Why can't we have more stories on that? So that's what we were discussing. And I would like to invite Lynn Shepard. Good morning, Lynn. How are you doing?
Good morning, everybody. Nice to see some new faces today. Anyway, so I guess the question is, what does peace mean to me? It was interesting listening to Dr. Dhawan talk about peace with nature, and I think that's wonderful. I hadn't thought of that. But peace can be, to me, can be looked at both on a macro level, which is peace with nature, and a micro level, which is peace within oneself, and or one's associates. The first thing I think about is the Bible says, "Love thy brother," and I think we need a lot more love in this world. Unfortunately, we don't have it. As has previously been discussed. I think it's wonderful that we've had recently a peace agreement in the Middle East. It's very hard to happen. Hopefully it can happen with more countries. But then we have, I guess since the history of the world started, there's always been fighting, and it's sad because we don't we don't follow the biblical principle of loving thy brother. But then you have your relationship with the people around you. And to me, that's also love. Stop trying to compete, because when you compete, you put each other at odds. Just simply love each other for who they are and what they do. But then we have the macro, which is ourselves. We need to feel relaxed. We need to feel calm. We need to feel basically content with ourselves, and not follow the road of greed and ego. And I think that's what peace means to me.
That's wonderful, sir. And I think we all appreciate what peace means to you. I would like to welcome Mukesh Sinha from Delhi. Mukesh, good evening. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good evening and namaste to all.
Thank you, sir. So, what peace means to you, and happy International Day of Peace.
Yes, in India we say "Jio or Jine do." So leave and let live. So that is the core fundamental issue of humanity. Peace for means equal opportunity to all, irrespective of the caste, sex, religion, geography, color, whether black and white. So it has to be harmonious relation among the human beings. So that is the core issue. Peace means for me, as for environment and surrounding, where you can express your thought, your opinion without any fear and favor. So that means peace to me.
Okay, that's an interesting thought, and I think a lot of Indians think about similarly, because in India it's like live and let live, and Jio or Jine do. That's what we imagine, and then it also means respect to everyone. Basically, that's how we progress peace. So I will go back to Nandini from Switzerland. So Nandini, you're listening to a lot of people. I mean, from India, from US, from Hong Kong. A lot of people are joining us. What do you think about people who are living outside and they're talking about peace? I mean, because Switzerland is, according to a lot of ways, I mean, they is one of the peaceful nations. What do you think about that?
Well, as both Sanjay and Lynn said, sadly, there has always been war and conflict and poverty. And I often think about this as the forces of light and the forces of dark. I think it's why the Star Wars franchise has been so wildly popular, because people can understand there have always been voices of dark, which are tolerant, fear-based, demonize the other, at the least, demean them, at the worst, destroy them. But there have always also been voices of compassion and understanding and welcoming in the stranger and taking care of them. And I believe what our responsibility is to ourselves be a voice of light, but also amplify voices of light wherever we see them, and not fall into despair, which is very easy to feel when we see all of the horrific things that are happening in our world, not to fall into a downward spiral, but instead to put out the energy and the effort, because it's both. As several people have commented, it's internal work and it's external work. And neither will happen without the other. You have to keep internally centered if you're really doing valuable work in the world, and you also can only do valuable work in the world when you're coming from a grounded place of connectedness to other human beings, regardless of where they may live. And I'm not saying this just as an abstraction. I'm saying this as having worked in movements globally. I worked in the anti-apartheid movement, and then I got to work with Nelson Mandela after he was freed from prison. And as you know, after a brutal imprisonment, instead of attacking people who had brutalized. We found a way to find common ground with them to create a free, fair South Africa. Now, I'm not saying that all the problems have been solved, nowhere, but it's kind of like I think each of us is being part of a long relay race for peace, freedom, and justice. And I have to carry the torch, and each of us have to carry the torch as long as we can. And we need to find ways to renew and nourish ourselves in order to do that.
That's an interesting thought, ma'am, and thank you for sharing the valuable thoughts. And we have Adifa joining us from Nigeria. Hi, Adifa. Good evening. How are you doing?
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning. It's afternoon over here at Nigeria. So my name is Oluwanifesi Adetula, and I'm so glad to be here. Good afternoon.
And Adifa, what peace means to you?
Okay, yes. So thank you so much, Ankit. Peace. When we talk about peace, I believe that peace is the absence of fear, of violence, of fear of any form of intimidation or oppression. So I believe peace is serenity and tranquility. So for every individual, but one definition of peace that stands out for me is the absence of fear at all. Or even when there is fear, the ability to be able to live over it and bring something out of that fear and produce results in spite of your fear. So that is what I believe it's peace. And bringing peace to the global scene, bringing peace to everybody around us is something that I believe is the responsibility of every individual. Because unless the least of us is taken care of, the best of us can never live in peace. Until we care about every individual's peace as much as we care about our own, there is no way that the world will live in peace. You know, some people believe that financial security will bring them peace. Some people believe that, having some sort of comfort will bring them peace. But no, peace is not in all of that. Peace is something that comes from within. It's a deep, in-seated sense of satisfaction. And until we ensure that wherever we find ourselves, we do not pursue just peace for ourselves, but peace for everybody around us, that is when the world can really be as it hurts to be. So I believe that peace is an absence, like I said, of fear, or in spite that fear, you live the best life that you can despite that fear. And until we pursue this for not just ourselves, but for everybody that we know, irrespective of the color of their skin, irrespective of their background, irrespective of their country, irrespective of their socio-economic status, that is when the world can really live as one and in peace. Thank you, Ankit.
Thank you for sharing the amazing thoughts from Nigeria. And I would like to welcome Narayanmoorthy Sundaresan. Good evening, sir. How are you doing? Can you hear us? There seems a technical problem. And I think Brandon needs to leave. So, Brandon, before you wrap up, before you leave for the day, any last thought, conclusion about Peace Day?
Well, I'm just happy to be, I think, a part of the celebration. I think it's important to, like we were saying earlier, to make those connections with other people, to kind of build that sense of community and understand others. And the other thing I think that we have to keep in mind as we talk about World Peace Day this year in particular is that we've now left the era of
I got cut off, I think.
Large.
Can you hear me?
We're not seeing as much of
Yes, we
big
can.
wars and battles. I
Hello?
think it's more about social justice issues and it's information and systemic problems. I think that peace can be hard to deal with when you're thinking about it on a worldwide scale of wars and conflict. And I think it's easier to break it down into your life individually and think about your interactions with others, how you protest, how you vote, how you support political parties in your own local area, in your own country, to think about peace in ways where you can make a direct impact in others' lives. So I think that that's the message I'd like to share today, is that thinking about peace as something you can do individually every single day. Small gestures of kindness, large gestures of organization and political organization if you need to, whatever that means for you, creating peace every single day. So hopefully, we'll start making small steps towards that this year and in the future, continuing to encourage everyone around the world to, in their everyday lives, do something to create a little bit of peace for them and for somebody else.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you for sharing the love. And we would like to welcome Narayanmoorthy ji. Sir, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you and I can see all of you. And I would like to say greetings to all of you because each of you is coming from a different time zone.
Yeah.
And then I had a little bit of lack of peace with the internet. Internet was not in peace with me. So, I had some difficulty, but now I'm back with all of you. Peace lovers.
Welcome.
So happy International Day of Peace. And what peace means to you, Narayan sir?
Sorry, say it again.
What peace means to you?
Oops.
I think there is some internet issues going on, and I think Rakesh, you need to leave before leaving. Any remarks about the Peace Day? Anything you want to conclude?
All of your thoughts, such wonderful thoughts. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to meet all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a lot of people joining us from around the world, and because of internet issues, and we have a limitation studio as well. Only 10 can join at a time, including backstage. So we are just trying to cope up with that. Narayanmoorthy ji has joined us, but before that, I would like to just run one of our donation QR code, which we'll be using it for peace programs around the world for next 1 year. So this is the QR code. If any of our viewers would like to donate, they can definitely do so, and we can work it out to make some useful peaceful programs around the world in multilingual, multi-time zones on IBM TV. So that's the thought about this donation, and I think Narayan ji joined us back. Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you.
So we would like to know what peace means to you.
Peace is something which everybody has in the core of their being. And peace is something which has to do with, love for each other and the willingness and the eagerness to coexist with everybody. Coming from India, which is a land known for peace. Long ago, this Chinese philosopher, Mr. Hu Shi, he said that India had conquered, they said China was conquered and dominated by India culturally for over 20 centuries without India having to send a single soldier across its border. The operative word he had used was conquered and dominated. But I would have liked to go with the word influence, because people certainly love to learn the best from each other. So and of course everybody knows that India is the land which has given to the world Mahatma Gandhi. Who really demonstrated that non-violent route for expressing your thought, and even as much as getting the freedom for the country and bringing the British Empire to its knee. So there is a peace is the only alternative, and it is something which is very intrinsic to all of us, and we have to proactively and mutually respect each other. And in day-to-day life, it is said that you evaluate a person not by the way he interacts and treats his superiors, you evaluate a person based on how he treats the people subordinate to him or people.
So I think we lost Narayanji from Hong Kong. There might be some bandwidth connections. Maybe he'll join back soon. So Dr. Deepali, I mean, you were listening from people around the world about peace, and what's your conclusion about all of them? Because everyone is talking about peace, respect, happiness. I mean, talking about building peaceful communities and stuff like that. So, what's your take on those opinions?
So, what I think and what I take away from all their wonderful discourses is that the two killers are comparisons and intolerance. So, we have that intolerance may be divided into intolerance for a different color, intolerance for a different sect, intolerance for a different economic group. So that respecting every individual as an individual and respecting our differences. You see, we all are there. Each one is different from the other. Even 4 or 5 members in the same family will not be the same. So once you start realizing, and you have to realize at a very integral level that you have to respect differences because differences are there to stay. And once you start doing that and your intolerance to these differences reduces, I think peace will automatically descend. And no doubt it is something which starts internally and reflects externally. So one person in the house, even if you're having a fight at home, if one person is at peace, that thing fizzles out. And this reflects to the entire society. If few people take the stance of remaining peaceful in a turmoil, it will reflect upon the entire society.
That's very powerful message from a doctor and who is also a mother and also done a lot of other, work during this lifetime. And Dr. Dhawan, anything about peace?
So, as I said earlier also, but yes, everybody agrees on the fact that peace can start from one person. So if we make sure that whoever lives we touch, we actually make peace over there, we spread peace over there, we create peace in our own milieu. So if everyone tries to create peace around them, I'm sure the whole world will become a peaceful place. And we need to overcome greed. We need to overcome our egos. Greed and ego and lust for power, these are the root causes of all the discord, all the conflict across the universe. The moment we feel satisfied with the small things that we have, what we already have, and we feel we give up our ego and we feel that everybody is equal, I think the world will be a much better place. And so the power that we have, we should use that power to actually make peace rather than destroy peace. Power we should use to help others rather than to harm others. Power we should use to bring equality rather than inequality. So that's how it should be. And the whole idea is that be one in this world. This world was made as one place. It should remain one place.
That's a wonderful thought, and I think that's what we say in India. Vasudev Kutumbakam, that means one world, and that means we are one family, and that's how we cooperate as a peaceful community. I would like to welcome Dr. Tulla from Gurgaon. Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
All well, all well. Good to be on the show, and I'm happy to be here today.
And sir, what peace means to you?
So peace is only one word to me, and that is respect. I believe when you start respecting everyone, there is going to be only peace. So I think peace and respect go, with each other. Because if you look at your house and everything, look at the society around you. If you start respecting people who are not economically doing as good as you are, right? So what happens is you give them that empowerment so ultimately this leads to a good kind of milieu and a good kind of vibe all around you. So ultimately, I believe at the end of the day, the most important thing which leads to peace is to respect each other. So bigger countries, when they start respecting not so bigger countries or not so economically superpowers, they give them the leverage. And sometimes you even have to give space-saving opportunities to people also who don't give you, who are not doing good to you also. You need to understand that is the way peace has to have a price. You have to basically have a price for peace. And the best way of attaining peace is to avoid conflict. And the best way of doing that is to respect each other. So I think the only word which I would like to use for peace or an analogy to peace is respect.
That's amazing thought, sir. And I think we all appreciate that respect comes first, and then everything will follow after that. And if we start respecting people, I think automatically peace can happen, and peace can happen over. Over a beautiful talk and a lot of other ways to get it done. Narayanmoorthy, can you hear us now?
Yes.
So we were talking, and there was some connection problem. Would you like to resume the talk? What you were discussing about peace?
I think there is a lot of what shall I say, resonance in what everybody is saying here. I've been able to hear bits and pieces here and there. So Dr. Singh, who just now spoke, he very clearly mentioned. He also mentioned that for him, peace was synonymous with respect, because when you do not respect the other person, okay, you can never be at peace with that person. So so
Okay, wonderful, sir. And people can watch our show. I mean, for our viewers, they can watch our show on IBM.tv. They'll find the link to watch all our shows starting from 8:30 a.m. EST, and we have multiple shows going around till 9 p.m. EST. So that's for everyone. And then, Nandini ma'am, can you also tell us about yourself? What do you do? Because we heard a lot of things about global citizenship and circle, and you work on a lot of non-profit organizations. Can you brief about yourself, ma'am? You need to unmute yourself.
Here I am.
Yes, ma'am.
So I've been at this since the early 1960s, and I have a feeling that a lot of the people who are in the program have also been champions of peace for a long time. I think that universally come across from everyone is Dr. Tulla, the idea that we each honor every other being, and that's human beings and all of life on nature is really critical. And what Brendan said about every person doing their little part, it's exactly what Nobel Peace Prize went to do your own little bit of good where you are. It's all those little bits of good when they come together that overwhelm and that echoes what psychologist Margaret Mead said. When never underestimate what a small group of committed citizens can do to change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has changed the world. So, we've got a lot of people here from India who know the tradition of Gandhi and the movement he led, starting with the salt. And there's so much, we each have so much power. And my work goes to the Global Citizen Circle, which brings diverse people together from all over the world for dialogue about important social issues. And you just go to globalcitizencircle.org and you can join one of these circles. We have them every single month, and they're intergenerational cross-sectoral dialogue. And that's what I'll say for now, and I'll leave you so that you can bring other people into the dialogue. But it's really been an honor with so many wonderful people. So, thank you, Kimberly, and the senior producers for this program.
Thank you, and thank you, Cherry, for the lovely thoughts. And we would like to host you again on our IBM TV regular shows.
I gave you my contact information, so feel free to be in touch. Okay.
Thank you.
All the best
Thank
to everybody.
Thank you.
Wow.
And good morning, Kim. How are you doing?
Oh, good
Happy
morning.
International Day of Peace.
Oh, happy International Day of Peace, but also it's the last day of summer.
Really?
Yes. Tomorrow is the first day of fall, so it's my favorite season. But anyway.
Kim, can I interrupt you? Can you zoom a little towards your window? You have a beautiful view out of the window.
Oh,
It
thank
looks
you.
beautiful.
Yeah, look.
Yeah, you've been maintaining that hedge very diligently, I presume.
Well, not as diligently as I should. I spend a lot of time working, but I like the outdoors. Yeah, it's I enjoy it. But thank you.
Looks beautiful.
Thank
Looks
you.
extremely beautiful. And the vase also looks good, full of fresh flowers.
It's and the air is crisp outside, so it's just go out and breathe it in, and it just feels so good and enjoyable. The sun's shining today, so yeah, it's an awakening moment for me. It's peaceful. How are you doing today, Dr. Tulla?
All well, ma'am. Everything is well. So, hopefully we will tide away with this crisis also. And hopefully we'll do it peacefully. We'll not end up fighting wars with a lot of countries.
Wouldn't that be horrible to endure all of this as a human and then to endure a war? So anyway, also good evening, Dr. Sanjay. How are you doing?
Sir, you need to unmute. Unmute, sir.
Yeah,
Can you hear
good
me?
evening. Thank you. Nice to see you again, Kimberly.
Same
Thank
here,
you.
and I've been doing what you suggested, and it's feels like it's making a difference. So
Perfect. I'm glad to hear
sometimes
that.
the answer is just right before your very eyes, and you just don't know. And Dr. Deepali, hello, good day.
Good evening, rather no, good morning to you, Kimberly. And as you said, it's a beautiful morning from your window, adorned with lovely flowers. So on this day, it's like really fitting the bill.
Yes, it is. I have some interesting flowers growing at the end of the season that the deer didn't get to, so I'm very happy about that. We have a lot of deer here, and they chew up everything we own. But managed to rescue a few beautiful flowers. I will see if I can go get some videos of them today in between breaks. And then, is that Mike I see peering through the Zoom? Is that Mike?
I didn't get you.
Okay. Well, good evening and good morning, everyone. So this is wonderful that I couldn't even get in this morning. The studio was full. How exciting is that? So did everyone get a chance to share what peace means to them?
We did.
Yeah, we were discussing about peace. There are a lot of people joined us and then they had to beam out because to give more space to newcomers. People are still joining. We have Adifa joining us from Nigeria. She had to beam out because of bandwidth problem, but now she's back. And we were discussing with Narayanji about peace. Narayanmoorthy is living in Hong Kong from almost like 15 years or so, I'm not sure. And he was discussing about his own way of celebrating Peace Day and what peace means for him.
Well, I started out this morning with a prayer. I went out and did my prayer and enjoyed the morning just to calm and find some peace because to me that's the best way to start my day. And just to breathe the fresh air and get back with nature a little bit, watch the birds, listen to them. We have so many of them in our garden, and so it's just a great way to start it. You should start every day with some kind of peaceful meditation or mindset. It doesn't even have to be a prayer. So does anyone else start out their day with a good peaceful way?
peaceful.
We all did it the
Well,
same way. Prayers and then talking about. In fact, my daughter, she's 4 years old, and she told me that, Dad, I wanted to grow young and I wanted to help people. And I was like, how come you are talking about all this things? Suddenly. And she said that I wanted to help a lot of people now. I can't help them. I wanted to help them. And I was like, I don't know where it's coming from.
It's coming from her dad and mom. You guys teach her these great values. And that's what we need.
Narayanji wants to leave. Sir, before you leave, any concluding remarks about peace?
Yeah, I wanted to add something. Like they say, charity begins at home. Like they say, charity begins at home. So basically, in order to be peaceful, you have to have love, within yourself. And other qualities are required. That is a quality of appreciation for other people. And more specifically, the openness to enjoy the gifts of nature. For example, we were just referring to the lovely site outside her office, and with all the flowers blooming. Now, will that not be a very miserable life if we do not have the inclination to stand and stare? It was the poet who said that, it's very, very futile if you don't have the inclination to stand and stare at the nature's bounty. So these are the very, very elemental building blocks of peace. And since charity begins at home, so you have to have these attributes within you. If you do not have, you must cultivate them. That is an essential prerequisite to seek to be peaceful first, and to be peaceful towards everybody else. This is what I wanted to add.
Where are you? Let's see. That was very beautiful. Thank you so very much. It does begin within each and every one of us. We cannot share peace if we don't start here. I always tell people, in order to love others and others love you, you have to love yourself first too, right? So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Adestia, did I get your name right? Hi.
No, you didn't, but that's fine. Hi. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone.
Good morning. We're around the world, and we're learning to try to say. I think we need to find one word that says good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So that it's
all at once.
One at once.
Yes, I understand.
We need to find. That's maybe.
We could just say greetings.
Greetings.
Greetings to everyone.
Greetings. Namaste.
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 That is the simplest,
Yeah, namaste.
Every time of the day, whatever time you are, you can use that word.
Greetings and namaste. But let's share with us what's going on in your part of the world, who you are. I'm sure you've already done this, but what you're doing for the International Day of Peace and what it means to you.
Okay, yes. Before you joined in, I already gave some of the things that peace means to me. Okay, so let me just start first by introducing myself. I'm Oluwanifesi Adefila. So I host a podcast called Inside Life, and it talks about majorly all the issues of life and how to deal with them. I've hosted quite a number of people on my podcast, ranging from psychologists, authors, writers, human resource professionals, dietitians, and so many people, discussing basically on self-improvement and how to become a better version of yourself. So on today, the International Day of Peace, I'd like to agree with what most of you have said about how that charity begins at home, and it begins with you. Whatever it is that you need, whatever thing that you need to achieve, it begins with you. And like I said, until we learn to love ourselves, until we learn to find our own peace, until we learn to get to a point in our lives where that we are rid of fear, or despite and in spite our fear, we can get to become the best version of ourselves, irrespective of what it is that we fear. That is a state of peace, a state of contentment and satisfaction with your life and with your person, with who you are and what you do. And it's not just that, it also, from that, we can then stem and express that level of satisfaction, that serenity that we feel on our inside to other people around us. Because I believe that that is the height of it. Community. Because the truth of life is that except the least of us is taken care of, the best of us will never have peace. So until we care for other people and we ensure that their peace is our peace, until we ensure that their safety is our safety, their care is our care, until we ensure that if they live well, we will live well. If we care for them like we care for ourselves, not until then, if we don't do that, we can never achieve a state of peace wherever we are. So that's the beginning. Caring for yourself, and loving yourself rather, than caring for other people. Kindness, love, a smile on your face can go a long way to bringing peace to a troubled mind. So we need to start from individuals before we even get to talk about the nation. Start with your neighbors, start with your family, start with your friends. Ensure that you communicate that you love them, because that goes a long way in bringing peace and validation to other people. So that's what's going on here on my own side, from myself for every other person.
That's a beautiful message. And I want to share one of our videos of the United Nations message of what International Day of Peace is, if you give me a second here.
Okay.
In 1981, the United Nations established the International Day of Peace on September 21st, a day for us all to pause our busy lives, take a breath, look at our neighbors, and to be at peace. A day to celebrate our differences, to hug our neighbors. A day to celebrate humanity on this vast planet. In 2020, we need this moment more than ever. A moment of respite from the fighting, conflicts, and chaos we're all going through. Join us live on IBM TV on September 21st from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time to take a moment to celebrate our differences and join together in our virtual community for the International Day of Peace.
Peace. What does it mean to me? I am a big proponent of world peace.
Peace is compassion, empathy, understanding.
What are you willing to do for peace?
Peace is the ability to see the positive side of every experience and realize that no matter what happens, it helps you grow to become the best version of you.
Peace means serenity to me. When I love myself more, I can love others better.
Peace is the highest goal of our species.
There you have it. We have so many other videos that are being gathered and collected. I think every day we were getting a new video or two of messages from people, and they're stitching them together. But look who's joined us in the house. Welcome, Sasha.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
Happy International.
Yeah, it's
the youngest bloke is on the show now.
I must admit it's a really a great day, and you know, I was born in a country which lost 27 million people in the Second World War, and my late father was in Berlin on May 8th. The day the war ended, And of course, it's funny. People don't understand only one thing. It's not only good that it saves life when there is no war. It's also good economically because there are so much effort, so much finances spent on all kind of different arms and supplies and everything else, and that all could be turned into peace efforts. And it doesn't take a genius to understand that, unfortunately. And I was trying to dig into it and to understand why such a great people, smart people at the power, they just don't get that the peace is good to save civilization, especially now that since 1945 humankind essentially can destroy itself. And in 1962, during the Cuban crisis, we were very close to annihilate everything, and fortunately it didn't happen. But who knows how things would work next time during such a crisis. So I think that everybody has to understand that peace is good. Like when certain character said that greed is good, and probably he was right, but I'll tell you that peace is good, and even much.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. And what a story you have that your dad was there on the day that the war ended. I mean, how beautiful was that? I'm sure that it was always enduring for you to hear those stories. It's not enduring to hear the stories of war. It was very hard on the people who have to go into it. You know, we're battling a war, in my mind, with viruses, right? Just a different species. And we need to unite together as humans and work together on this and establish that we are going to learn to adapt and overcome what is necessary, just like we've always done. We just need to pull together and unite on this. Well, welcome, boss. How are you doing today?
Namaste. I learned this from
Namaste.
I learned this from my friends in India, that you do this rather than this, so you don't spread coronavirus. And I think that's a good idea. But it's hard to get Americans to change, to adapt to this. But I think this is a really good policy. So we just have to work with our American friends to say, hey, guys, do this, don't do that, because that spreads germs, disease. Namaste. I even learned how to pronounce it right. Being from the South, that's kind of difficult. But I have to agree with my friend in Russia, Sasha, that peace is good for business. I mean, there's just no question about it. I feel bad when I look at Syria and Aleppo. I don't know if you saw it looks like it's all in ruins and rubble. I mean, the people that there's no way your standard of living can increase if you're fighting like that. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So somewhere along the line, there has to be some alternative forms of dispute resolution.
How about chess game?
Yeah, play a chess game. I was thinking about that.
Yeah, the two presidents of each country, and they're playing chess game, and whoever wins. Okay, there's no need for war.
Yeah, or take them out to play golf, or do like the Brits do. Let's sit down and have tea. I don't know if you ever see the Brits. I mean, they get in these big fights and go, "Oh, it's time for tea." Like tea solves everything, And I was going, okay, that's pretty good. But we need to find some alternate sources of dispute resolution, which I think the world has to accomplish that. Otherwise, it's going to be a pretty nasty world. And here's the other problem: we can get attacked, which we just saw, from something that has nothing to do with people, a tiny little virus, attacking everybody. So it can be a challenge.
Pretty sneaky, but Dr. Sagu had just joined us as well on International Day of Peace. Namaste, Dr. Sagu.
Namaste,
yes. Namaste. Right, and it's in the evening right now in India, right?
Yeah,
okay.
It's the evening, yeah.
Yeah, because
go ahead.
Well, Bill Trezevant always gets on, says good morning, good afternoon, and good night, because it's evening in India, and it's like 10 o'clock in Malaysia, and the people in Malaysia, by the time we're on at noon here, it's like midnight over there. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. If we call namaste, if we call namaste, then I don't think that we need to think whether it is the morning, evening, or the night. Namaste is a universal.
Oh, really?
It's generic.
I'm not really sure what this means. I say namaste. I hope you're saying something good to the other person. You could be saying something really bad, but I wouldn't even know. So I think it's something good, right? What does it mean?
Yeah, it's a good gesture of to give respect to others, and maybe some for communication.
Sure.
So we call it namaste or sat shri akal. The same thing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, does it mean hello? Does it mean good day?
It means that I bow down to you with respect.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
It's a gesture of giving a respect to the others.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Well,
like bow down with respect now.
Yeah, well, no, I think it's a great idea, and I think we need to introduce it to our American friends, because with coronavirus and is going to be around for a while, they need another way of greeting people rather than the handshake or the elbow bump. So I think it's a good import from our friends in India. So we're looking forward to that. But peace. We're sponsoring International Peace Day today, so it's going to be our all-day programming on International Peace. It's going to bump my Economics Monday off the air.
Nick, I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So you were mentioning Syria. So what are you going to do this day to ensure that there is some resolution in Syria? So are you pushing the Russians and the Americans and the Turkish to kind of get into a ceasefire?
Well, I mean, that would actually
be like this.
That would actually be a good idea. We never, Dr. Tulla, we never really had any party that's involved in this on our television show. So I don't even know what they're fighting about. In other words, one of the real problems I have with war in general, I always like to know, what is the issue? What are we fighting about? What is the big deal over there? And I haven't got that information.
Okay, I can help you.
I'll tell you, it's a very simple thing where they're fighting about. So it's one dictator wanting to control the country. There is Turkey sitting on the other side who want to basically reap the harvest of the river Tigris, which runs through the Syrian area, and to control the oil. And I'm sorry to say, but America and Russia are testing their missile technology in that country.
Russia has something else.
Let's hear from our Russian friend about this test.
Russia has slightly bigger stake than just to test their weapons. See, they don't have any basis for their fleet in the Mediterranean region, and Syria is the only place which allowed them to keep quite sizable international and, of course, military fleet. And this is why they are fighting very hard to keep Assad regime at the power, so they will have this possession for many, many years to come. Americans, it's less clear to me what is their goal. Supposedly, while Trump said that he's taken back all except probably 500 people to guard the oil fields, and but there was about 3 weeks that was a huge accident involving Russian and American vehicles, and I know that quite a few Americans became unconscious, and hopefully they all survives. And but that accident took place as well. So we know how Turkish are very aggressive about their positions in Syria. So there is a lot of things going. It's not so simple to say that there's nothing for them to do, and ideally it should be over. But the problem is that Americans can't allow Assad just to keep his power, because they will lose completely their influence in the region. And judging from the Trump's policy, probably that's what's going to happen anyway.
But Sasha, look at what is happening. If you divide the community, I mean, as per population of various sects, so you have basically the Shia. I should not be commenting on the religion, but just to put it in perspective, you have Assad, who was a Shia, controlling the majority, who is a minority, controlling the majority. Then you have who are being supported by America. They initially were being supported by America because in their war against Saddam also they were the front runner, right? And then
but Dr.
they were
Tulla,
left high and dry.
From what I know, Assad is not Shia. He's Alavite.
Okay.
I
So
think
that
they're
is again a
related
minority.
to Shia, but they're minority.
That again is a minority.
It's only 12% of the population.
Yeah. So we need to understand that you need to be a little bit democratic. Even if you are a dictator, you still have to be a little democratic and try to incorporate all sections of the society. If you're not going to do it, of course, there is going to be this only.
But okay, now we have to really qualify whether it's just internal issue with the Syrian people and their ruler Assad, or it involves all international community, including Russians, Turkish, and US, everybody else. How do we deal with all that?
So that is what I'm trying to tell you, that if the external communities decide that they are not going to interfere, I think that all is up. You don't have a war. And unless and until they sort out Syria, I don't think they're going to sort out anything in the world.
Syria is very complicated issue. It's a religious question. It's political. It's just so tough region of the world, and I really don't see how it could be solved. But just all we can do is just pray.
No, we need more lawyers. I know the solution. All problems in the world. Okay, we just need to add more lawyers, and then they can resolve this. And if not, the billable rate gets so high, people settle. I totally understand that form of dispute resolution. So,
Nick,
I think that's the solution.
You're really just breaking my heart.
Hey, speaking of a lawyer, I just added another one. Just a minute. Where'd Bill go? I got to get him back. Bill, you need to come on.
Oh, but wait.
Where'd he go?
But Nick, we've got some other people that have been on the National Day of Peace. We have Paul Slatikas all the way from the New Jersey.
New York.
He's in New York.
New York.
Yeah, New York. They don't talk to the people in New Jersey. There's a big war going on between New York and New Jersey.
Yeah,
Garden State.
Yeah, and Paul runs the Good News Corporation. So anytime you need some good news, you ask Paul. So what's the good news for today, since you're helping us with the International Day of Peace, or maybe we're helping you?
It's everybody that's on this broadcast right here, right now. That's good news. So,
Hey.
There you go.
I can go for that, right?
We've been going since early this morning, and look, we've got Shaq all the way from. Are you still in Australia, Shaq?
I'm still in Australia, and I've got the New York shirt on just for Paul.
Oh, thank you.
I thought you were wearing blue because I was wearing blue.
I did it for Paul because I actually had dinner with Paul in New York either the night before or 2 nights before I went to the United Nations.
Wow, you guys all know each other. What a
we do.
world.
I get around. I float around the world.
I didn't know you ever went to the Big Banana in New York. I thought you were trapped in Australia, mate.
Well, there you go.
You know.
No, Shaq's a great man. We had a great evening. And,
hey, okay. So where'd you go for dinner? Did you go to the Russian tea room?
We went to a Japanese place actually because it was a last minute thing, and the 7 of us went out to a Japanese restaurant in New York and had a jolly good time.
Oh, okay. So you didn't go to Tavern on the Green?
No.
We almost ended up at Paul's house.
I mean, I got to hit all the good places: Tavern on the Green, the Russian Tea Room. I go to the Russian Tea Room just for Sasha. So
it's a fantastic place, but overly expensive.
It is very expensive, but the food's good. You got to admit, the Russian Tea Room, the food is good.
It's good, but waiters don't speak Russian, by the way.
I know. Yes, they don't. I go, Yakatila big story, big pais, and they don't understand what I'm talking about.
It's not owned by a Russian. It's a good friend of mine who owns it. So, and do you know that Madonna, you know that singer? She's hanging
Madonna. Okay. Oh, yeah, she was with the Virgin Mary, right?
Yeah. She sings. She used to be very, very.
Okay, right. Yeah, what about her?
Yeah, she was a hat checker of it. So at the tea room. So, everybody starts somewhere in life, right? And some eventually ends up somewhere and maybe the same place. But in any case, you hope her you're living and healthy, right? We're living under crazy times. And hello, Shaq, and hello.
We are living in crazy times.
Difficult times.
That was for Bill next door, my attorney friend next door. Just in case you didn't know. We're having a big election coming up.
Yeah, now, I mean, this should be the definition of peace. Whether this is a power of love or it's a love of power. If wait,
can I trademark that? Can I trademark that? Can I copyright and trademark that? Everybody uses it. I take it to court. There we go.
Well, that's a big part of peace, right?
Yeah, right. It's getting more lawyers. That's what it is, right?
Well, it's getting more lovers. No, it's more lovers. There's no doubt. It's more lovers.
Okay.
And showing your love and hugging each other and being kind and compassionate, all that kind of good stuff. All right.
Okay.
Screwed in the process.
Nick, you should file a case against Russia for Syria. I'm sure you're going to earn a lot of money.
Right. Well, the thing is, I just need a retainer, and I'll be willing to do anything. So once the retainer comes, the engagement letter goes, we're good to go, right, Bill? We're all
I'm holding the finest position in the legal profession. Send me the retainer, and
I mean, that's the first rule of law. I mean, the first thing you learn in law school is get the retainer. What's the second rule? Well, you go from there, but you got to get the first rule down right first. Right. So, no, I understood that when I was a little lawyer puppy. They said, the rule of law is important, get the retainer. And then you move on from there. Hey, Bill, do we have a report from Washington, D.C. today?
Yes, we do, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's hear it from the Tower of Power.
Okay. From IBM TV, International Broadcast Media, this is your report from Washington. There are 42 days left until the presidential election. Last week, we turned our focus in these final days of the election to the nation's courts. We did not know then what we know now. The passing on Friday of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has ushered in a seismic shift cutting across all aspects of American society. Trump is rushing to nominate a conservative. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has vowed to confirm the person. Joe Biden attacked Trump and leading Senate Republicans for trying to rush a replacement as pressure mounted on senators. Of particular importance, the Supreme Court will hear a Republican-led case seeking to throw out the Affordable Care Act the very week after the election. Separately, dozens of lawsuits over voting matters from around the nation are heading to the Supreme Court and could lead to the Supreme Court once again deciding the presidential election with only 8 justices. Separately, Democrats raised more than $91 million by 9 p.m. on Saturday after the news of Ginsburg's death. 2 Republican senators have gone on record opposing any appointment before the election. It takes 4 GOP senators breaking ranks to keep Trump's nominee off the court. Joe Biden plans to campaign today in Wisconsin, his second visit to the battleground state this month. Trump campaign has no official announcements about his campaign activities today. Now we pivot. Today is International Peace Day, and activities will be broadcast exclusively here on IBM TV. So join us as our IBM TV family spends time with the rest of the globe as we reflect on our world and our future. Originally proposed by Woodrow Wilson as the League of Nations, the United Nations followed World War II's devastation to save succeeding generations from the scourge of conflict. The UN Charter was signed in San Francisco on June 26, 1945, by delegates from about 50 countries. One interesting footnote is that it was covered by a young reporter named John F. Kennedy before his father stepped in and changed his career. Spanish artist Pablo Picasso's, quote, Dove of Peace was first chosen as the emblem for the International Peace Conference in Paris in 1949. According to PabloPicasso.org, quote, it was a traditional realistic picture of a pigeon which had been given to him by his great friend and rival artist, the French artist Henri Matisse. Picasso later developed this image into a simple graphic line drawing that is one of the world's most recognizable symbols of peace today. The UN officially marks its 75th anniversary at an inflection point in history, navigating a polarized world as it faces a pandemic, regional conflicts, a shrinking economy, and growing inequality. Secretary General Antonio Guterres, looking back on the UN's history in an AP interview in June, said, quote, "Its biggest accomplishment so far is a long period during which the most powerful nations didn't go to war and nuclear conflict was avoided. Its biggest failure," he said, was its inability to prevent medium and small conflicts. In other news, there has been no movement on either a continuing resolution to fund the government or a COVID relief package to fund the American people. The latest reports are that the funding discussions have become complicated over farm subsidies. Finally, the current COVID death toll from Johns Hopkins University is over 199,512 American souls lost and 960,992 global souls lost with no end in sight. That is your report for this day, September 21st, 2020, from IBM TV, International Broadcast Media, smart television for a smarter global community, from dictatorships to democracies around the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good morning, and good night.
Good afternoon,
I'm Bill Trezevant.
and good night. I'm Bill Trezevant.
So that was a pretty good update, so.
Good job.
Yeah. So now you guys know what's going on in the great United States of America, as I'm changing the name from the United States of America to reflect Great Britain. So we're now the great United States of America, in case you didn't know.
Yes, I think, if I might, the important things to know is that right now, what we don't know, the undercurrents are shifting. The focus obviously is going to be on the Supreme Court, but it highlights the battle for the presidential election. A number of states are already engaging in early voting, and everybody's trying to get their sea legs back to see how this will affect just about every aspect, from grassroots to campaign decisions and things of that nature. So we're going to be in a bit of a quiet period, I think, until about Thursday, and then the yelling is going to start, which is why it's our hope that we just focus in on world peace today.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's our plan, at least, to focus on world peace today, and then tomorrow all the wars can go ahead and begin, I guess. Right.
Right.
So we get one day off. Is that how it goes, Paul? You get one day off, and then that's it.
Well, hopefully not. Hopefully not. So today is, we should all know that McKinsey and Company, a big research firm, had said, this was actually a couple of years ago, that 1.6 billion people are aware of the International Day of Peace. So I think that the good news here is that as the years continue and as more people get involved, there's shows all over the world and events, virtual events, I know, to recognize this day. And we're doing our part here, and others are doing their part as well. And of course, the more you focus on world peace and people are peaceful today, our ceasefire, that's actually one of the resolution commentaries, then, we take it one day at a time, right? One moment at a time.
And small steps at a time, because I noticed, at least my view of all the major media in the United States, I don't know about the other countries, none of them mentioned World Peace Day. Like, it doesn't even exist. It doesn't even hit their radar screen, because frankly, they're given this little report. Does it bleed? Then it leads. It doesn't bleed, out the door it goes. So the thing is, World Peace Day doesn't get any love here in the United States. So what gives with the United States of America? Why aren't we into World Peace Day? I know you do a big deal up there, because I saw the Times Square and people dancing in the streets, and people were into celebrating world peace in New York City. But how come media here, which is controlled by 5 companies that own 90% of all media in the United States, how come we're not into world peace here? What's the deal?
Well, so my 2 cents is the following: is that the world media doesn't support the United Nations, and as a result of this day being created in the United Nations, and then that's one aspect, and then all the 193 countries that raised their hands to agree to a day of peace don't work it. They don't focus on it. If 193 presidents got up They would focus on our president in America if he got up and said, today is the International Day of Peace, right? As declared in the United Nations, of which we spent a lot of money investing into. And everybody else got up and said something and said to their people, we have a day for peace. Let's cool out. Let's be calm. Syria's or wherever you were talking about before, then we'd have something. I don't think it'd even take that much. It just needs that recognition. It's a marketing job almost that people know that others are acknowledging this day.
Yeah. Well, I just noticed that it was kind of being ignored. Yes, Bill.
Well, I mean, Nick, in answer to your question, I think two things. I think, well, first, you're absolutely right. If it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. That's one, too. You're also right with the concentration of the media broadcast power in the hands of maybe 5 organizations really controlling the flow to America. And right now, they are too obsessed with the current internal fights. That is the presidential election. I mean, it's almost akin to when you're driving by and you see a car accident. Everybody slows down and they want to see that rather than focusing in on, the items that are just around the bend. And so it is unfortunate, but they celebrate conflict just like they celebrate superfluous things such as Love Island and, whatever other meaningless show that you have on the highly rated shows today.
I'll just add one other thought here, just because this is a total, as you all know, it bleeds, it leads. Because if you don't have peace, you're shooting somebody, you're raping somebody, you have domestic violence. So unfortunately, though, the media's mindset doesn't realize that there is solution. And it's called living life lovingly and peacefully. And this is that opportunity. If the media would recognize that, you don't hit your wife today. I mean, today is a day of peace. I have a friend.
No,
so she gets the day off. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Give her a day off. Anything. Maybe
okay.
Tomorrow.
All right.
I think we need to put it on the panel at this point somehow.
How many times have you seen at the 5 o'clock breaking news rushing to the site of 42nd and the Avenue and whatever, saying, "Hey, we're here covering this calm discussion between two guys." So it's not that the media doesn't get it; it's that they don't see it as either personally enhancing their ability to move up through the corporate media world, and then the media doesn't get traction on it because not live at 5. Hey, we have a peaceful discussion between two neighbors. It's just not going to work. So I know that they may be aware, but it's not.
Okay, Paul. What he's saying is peace is boring. Yes, Shaquille.
Can I just say something there? We had quite a tragic thing that happened to Australians and New Zealanders, where we had a shooting reasonably recently that happened down in Christchurch. I won't name the shooter, but that particular individual was an Australian who went over there, and it was a lot of fatalities involved in that. One of the things that happened just after the shooting was that some white, I think they were Christian guys, actually stood at the front of the mosque and invited the people that wanted to worship there into the mosque and said, "We will stand guard for you." Mm-hmm. And that was something that really didn't get a lot of coverage. And that's the thing, right? You can actually report on things that are horrible that happen, right? Of course, the world needs to know the horrible things that happen. But you could also actually talk about the strength of humanity. You can also talk about what it is that actually binds us together, because it's not that we're that divided. We can actually talk about the good. And yeah, look, there are some human beings that can do some bad things, but there is a hell of a lot of human beings that are going to do some really great things as well. And we should focus on them a bit more.
Right. No, I totally agree with you, Shaquille. I mean, one of the real problems is that the media would cover the bleed and lead, but doesn't cover the people that are getting along and how you say mediating and creating peace. It's like, forget those guys. That's not interesting. Peace is boring. So what they don't do is they don't cover it because of that. But maybe it's a fault of the journalism schools in the United States that they keep saying that investigative journalism, dirt, mud, garbage is.
20 years ago and 30 years ago, Nick, they would make movies like Schindler's List, right? They would make a movie about somebody who really put himself at some level of risk, and he benefited as well. But he put himself at some risk to try and help Jewish people who were trying to escape from the atrocities that were happening over there. And last week, the week before, I mentioned a guy in Switzerland who was a police chief, and he actually died in poverty. He died absolutely poor, and he was fired as a police chief because he was backdating residence visas for Austrians trying to get to Switzerland, trying to escape from again, the Nazis. So, these are stories where we should champion those people who should be an inspiration to us, those people that went against the system and just stood up for what was right because it was right, rather than just focusing on the atrocities and just focusing on the bad things that happened.
Yeah, and you notice that the news here, what they do, Shaquille, is they lead. In the last minute, they'll do it, and every one of them do it, a feel-good story. Okay, so out of the 30-minute they broadcast, actually it's 26 minutes and 42 seconds. 42 seconds is devoted to the feel-good story. The 26 minutes is devoted to, fighting, killing, bleeding, destruction, anything that's bad, mud throwing, and that's it. But what they do is what they're doing is feeding the American people a pile of garbage to eat. It's fast junk food media, and that goes on here every time. And then what happens? You get a bunch of people that do things that are outlandish, and you wonder why. Well, they've been fed garbage every day, and so the thing is they start acting like garbage. It's unbelievable. Yeah, Bill.
No, and it's self-replicating, because the lesson that people learn is the way to get on TV, the way to make progress, the way to be seen as a constructive member of the society is by doing something outlandish or completely meaningless, and then just living off the false stardom. It really is.
Yeah.
And you're right, Nick. There should be a criticism to American journalism schools, and I say that for the following reasons. I mean, you as an attorney, I as an attorney, we've taken it over decades, ever since Shakespeare, whose books I know you all threw out because of his anti-attorney stance, which for whatever reason may or may not be good. We've taken it for years, the criticisms about what it is that we do as a profession. We're held to a higher standard. Right. And so I think that there's absolutely clearly legitimate room to question the journalistic schools about what it is they're teaching and how they're raising the ethics of young journalists coming up. And part of it is, it's not only what job you take, but what job you take at what corporation. Because if you're going to be a journalist and then go over to Fox News, then I don't know what kind of career you're going to have. We all know what you're going to end up doing. So,
and they underestimate the impact of media, but I think they really do know, because look at what the parties are doing here. We're spending nearly $1 billion on advertising to get people elected here in the United States. That's the impact of media, and that's just for the election. But the advertising dollars are tremendous because they know how bad it influences people, how much it does.
Can I just say to Bill, there you guys go again, you Americans. You think, oh, it's American journalists. Like, the rest of us don't do that. Like, our journalists are like awesome, and it's just you guys that excel in journalism. It's just you guys. You're extra special there in America.
That's right, we are. It's only America.
You guys invented the credit card, and your country definitely knows how to spend on the credit card. We know that, so you do excel at that.
Are we, Bill? Are we supposed to recognize other countries here?
I'm not so sure, because I think that the switch for this global network is in the United States. Am I right, Nick?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. No, I think Paul wanted. First, Shaquille, you're absolutely right. Point well taken. I'm not going to apologize because I'm an American. Paul?
Yeah, Americans don't apologize. Remember that, Shaquille. We don't apologize. So
I'm sorry.
Even to each other?
No. We don't apologize to each other. Come on. That's not an American thing. It's just the way it is here, Sasha. We have our own culture.
Yeah, but Russians also never apologize, but Canadians, they do.
I know, Canadians are weird. That whole country is bloody weird.
With your prime minister, I mean, of course you're going to apologize.
Canada is one bloody weird country. I mean, you just got to get over. Once you get over the border, they all live within 100 miles of the U.S. because they really love us, but they don't want to admit it. Or it's cold, and then they have like tons of land up there that nobody goes to. I mean, it's just unbelievable. They're huge. They're like Russia. What?
And they speak French there as well.
They speak French. They speak English. You know, they're just. It's just a very. They don't have guns voluntarily, not like Australia where they took them all away from you. You know.
So technically speaking, my very first time into the United States was just out of Vancouver, down a place called Delta, and I crossed over to a part of the United States called Point Roberts. Point Roberts, I think it is.
Yeah, it's Point Roberts.
I'm still trying to work out why that's part of America. Can you guys just?
Yeah, I can give you a short history lesson. 54, 40, or fight. Okay, so that was the choice. 54. Okay, listen, Shaquille. 54, 40, or fight. Here was the deal. Okay, we had that little line that cut across. Everything below was us, above was yours, Canada, and that was 54, 40, the parallel. So because it was below the line, we got Point Roberts. That was it. And the thing is, like all good Americans, you know, we love war. So the thing is, and unfortunately we settled. And so the thing is, we end up with Point Roberts. But that's the reason it's there.
But because I was so disappointed. I was in Canada and I drove, and it was the very first time me driving in the United States. Yeah. And I was the very first time in the United States.
Yeah.
And I crossed that border and it looked exactly the same as Canada.
They do. We do look a lot like the Canadians. It's hard to tell us apart. But let me tell you something. There's a big difference between us and the Canadians. Okay. And the further south you get, the more you see it. When you see the big guns on our holsters that we have and the horses that we ride. I mean, come on, you see in the westerns. You know the drill.
Shaquille, what you can also note in that 54-40 trade, we gave you back. No, I'm sorry, Sasha. We gave you back Toronto. So
great.
You know, and although and just for the record, Nick, there are still parts the line when you get up into Maine between Canada and Maine. That's more of a fungible line, and that still has not been decided, and it's a matter of ongoing.
Okay. Bill, when you say that you gave it back to Canada, and I'll say this, you know, in the context of world peace and everything. Sorry, which country was it that you lost? The only wars that you've ever lost? What was that? What country?
We don't lose wars, and if we do, we wouldn't admit it. So just you can take that one off the table.
Someone burned the White House down. Just I seem to remember reading that somewhere.
But you know why they burned our White House? We burned theirs. Okay, well, actually, we burned theirs first, and then they got mad.
We have a peace day. Now you're talking about we will start war tomorrow. That's
I know it's International Peace Day, but we're just going through our history.
I'm getting
today we're not burning any capitals.
All right.
I'll be more diplomatic now. I'll put the hat on as well.
There we go. Okay, Paul, what's up?
Well, this is up. This is the fact. This is the day to actually give this some consideration. This is us. This is the world. Okay? That's the world from the moon. Does anybody see any boundaries or borders? Do we see anything?
No, it looks pretty good. I mean, the way I understand it's flat, and that really goes along with what I think it is too. It's flat, right?
So today's a day for an imagine, because we are really just one place. And all these borders, in essence, you could consider them possibly segregation of other people from.
You know, Paul. I mean,
we want to focus on the day of peace.
Yes.
And think on the world of peace. Then maybe it's a good day to think about the world as a united place, one place, the animals, and so on and so forth. And that we're all in the brotherhood and sisterhood and in the same on the same togetherness.
And it's all the fault of the internet that these borders are going to collapse, by the way, because you notice we're broadcasting in India. There's Ankit with his 1.3 billion followers over there. Sasha from Canada and Russia, and Shaquille from Australia. Come on. So the internet has just destroyed all the borders and all the power mongers that are out there. And frankly, the media, baby, the media. See, we don't care what they say here in the United States. We broadcast all over the world.
Right, we're going to do it again. But Paul, I do have a question, and it's partly from the quote that from the UN General Secretary when he said, looking back on the history of the United Nations, its successes and its failures. It essentially said that he did say that the failure of the UN has been in its inability to prevent medium and small conflicts from conflating around the globe. Now, it seems to me that on the International Day of Peace and what we're talking about, it's not just, we're all united around this central theme. Doesn't it just inherently raise the question of how do we get our hands around some of these smaller conflicts? For example, and this is just recently, the United States had about 500 troops in Syria, okay? And they were just guarding the oil fields of Syria. They started to get attacked. Russians then sent in troops. And then all of a sudden, the United States sent a contingent of over 1,000 troops to protect 500 troops to protect the oil fields. Isn't that an example of a small conflagration that should be able to be managed, that somehow is not being able to manage and the UN hasn't stepped in that area? And isn't that what we should be talking about?
Well, I'll say something. You know, the United Nations has, first of all, it's up to each and every individual. It's not really, I mean, in essence, you know, if you don't want to go to war, you walk away, unless you're afraid you're going to get shot by this person that's decided we should go to war. You know, peace is an individual decision, and the United Nations just as a body, another organization that isn't, you know, well, it's because of the UN. I don't think it's because of the UN. The UN has peacekeepers that they send around to different places, and I don't think it's because of the United States, who has taken on this world, you know, protector in many, many cases. You know, the small, you know, it's like the Aboriginal people, you know, they kind of got to work it out in between themselves in a certain degree. That's sort of how I think. It's just like somebody in their own household, husband and wife, you know, they need to work out their situation, and there should be people that can comfort them and help them deal with it. But I think it's a very, very much towards the soul of the consciousness. International Day of Conscience, April 5th at the United Nations. You know, they have all these great days, you know, Day of the Bible.
They actually have an International Day of Consciousness?
Yeah, April 5th. I was going to do the large broadcast in Times Square. I had it with a group called FOPAL, who will be on my show between 11 and 1. We have a lot of these kinds of, I'm stressed out from so much good news. So
really? It's stressed out from good news?
Of course.
That means you don't watch. That means you don't watch television here in the U.S.
Well, no, I watch our television, and I used to be with CBS and PBS. And there's a reason why CBS and PBS and those local channels show. You need to know there's a rapist in the corner, and you need to know that someone is shooting a gun on the corner. Okay, and they only have a half an hour, and the time factor is very important. So in a half an hour, they better get in the bad news, I'll call it, because you need to know that there's a rapist on your corner. Maybe you shouldn't go out of your house. That's the way the networks are.
Well, maybe they should change their name, call themselves the Bad News Network.
Can I just say something just in relation to what Bill said? You know, obviously I spend a bit more time with UN people these days, and you know, I've personally been pretty critical of the UN, as I'm critical of everything these days. But I think that one of the things that's very difficult for anybody to ever see is what wars or battles were avoided because of diplomacy. Okay. You know, we can't expect the UN to actually solve every issue, but you're never going to know that conflict that didn't happen because that doesn't get publicized. So, look, I do think the UN does a lot of work. I think the UN has some issues, but the UN does do a lot of good work, and they you know, they're an organization I think is worth having. And, you know, if there's a problem, we should reform it.
I agree. In your country, Shaq, Steve Calera, who does the Peace Index. You all should know about the Peace Index. He's out of Australia. He's in the show also between 11 and 1, okay? You need to look at what the Peace Index says. It's a peaceful time. And he goes through the last years, and he studies. He's got 30 billion hits, okay?
Wow, that's pretty good.
Hits, right? His Peace Index. And so, you know, the thing is that there's lots of people doing this good news stuff. There are tons of them out there. There's tons of. That's why I'm stressed out. There's so many people. Everybody.
Your hair because of peace, huh?
But I think that's an important point. I think that, you know, especially like at the moment, obviously the United States is very politically divided, and some of that division has affected other Western English-speaking countries. But I think it's really important to note how far we've actually come. Right? If you have a look through human history, there's a lot of bad things we've done to each other all throughout history in most countries and most civilizations that have ever existed. And so to actually look back and go, this is what we used to be and this is where we are today, we not only should give ourselves a pat on our shoulders, but we should also acknowledge what has happened before us and the people that have shaped the world in such a way that we get to live in a relatively peaceful time now. And we should fight to protect that. We should fight to make sure that we get even more peace, that we have more coherence between humanity. There's no question in my mind that if we can solve some of the issues like poverty and the people that don't have enough to eat, then we're going to have those people focusing on things that could make a real difference, like creating energy from renewable sources rather than scrounging around trying to find enough food, to feed themselves that day. So there's a lot of positive things that we can do, and I do believe in humanity and what humanity represents if it's allowed to be unleashed, and the power of humanity is allowed to be unleashed.
Okay, Paul, Shaquille gave me a really great idea. I have a brainstorm now. Okay, we're going to International Day of Peace, fighting hard for peace. What do you think about that?
What do I think?
Yeah, fight hard for peace.
Fight for peace. Fight for peace. Yeah, okay.
It's one of the terms I used here in Australia years ago, and they said, "Are you hard right, you hard left?" And I said, "I'm a hard moderate."
A hard
moderate.
A hard line moderate. There we go. Fight for peace.
No, that's like saying I'm a well-defined amoeba.
Well-defined amoeba. Yeah. So we could do that. Fight hard for peace.
Yeah. Oh no. So I wanted to add an observation, Shaquille, to your comments, because they're well placed and well timed. But it seems to me that certainly observing, recognizing how far we've come, is both a motivational thing, but it can also be used to lull us into a sense of relative security. However, and so that seems to be problematic where you draw that line with a constant fight for the future, notwithstanding recognizing what you've accomplished or we've accomplished in the past. But it seems to me on the different issue that when we have smaller conflicts relative to fights in previous decades or generations, it's that our conflicts are so much more destructive in a much faster time, so that a small fight can lead to multiple rockets with increased devastation and then long-lasting problems afterwards. So it's kind of like this. These days, we're bringing nuclear weapons to, a night fight. And that seems to be the real issue with regard to these continuing, nagging, medium, small-sized conflicts. And it was an observation. I was wondering what the panel thought.
Well, I was just thinking about Syria. Remember, they're fighting over oil, right? Yeah. But oil is almost obsolete. If you saw what happened in the Wall Street Journal, ExxonMobil's decrease in value tremendously due to the use of solar and alternate forms of energy. So what happens is the lateral thinking did not exist in Syria. They were basically fighting over an obsolete mineral. And the thing is, but look what they did. They destroyed Aleppo. They destroyed a lot of the cities fighting over basically obsolete minerals, when what they could have done is they could develop what they should have done anyway, alternate forms of energy, which is being developed, whether they like it or not, decreasing the value of what they had there and decreasing the need for oil that they're all fighting over. So if they're fighting over oil, that was just stupid. The thing is,
what they actually need, and all the countries around the world are actually, they should start looking at, is they need desalination plants. That's what they need in the Middle East. A desalination plant to get the water, irrigation, and things like that. I'm sorry, Paul, go right ahead.
No, I agree with the desal. We have a show, The Water Hour. We've been doing the water for 25 years, 30 years.
Oh, you're covering the globe. I really like you.
We helped create the International Day of Water with the United Nations. Okay, but what I wanted to say, every Peace Day, okay, actually we started in 2002, actually Reverend Susanna Bastarek and James Canny, who's not with us any longer, in in Central Park. But every year, and this is another Australian, Benny from Ninman, they like your hippie town here, like Woodstock, Nimembe, it's a location, but he would wear a nuke, and no nukes. He would be all dressed in black, and he'd have a gas mask on. During our show, Benny would walk all around the entire day. No nukes, no nukes. You're on to a serious subject. The Global Security Institute, Ted Turner, Mikhail Gorbachev. Like, we have shows about all this nukes. No nukes, no. We ended the Cold War with Russia having nukes towards us, and we're having nukes towards Russia. nukes are concerning. That's the whole thing in the Middle East, right? And these are that's a very serious kind of thing.
Yeah,
we forget about Mother Nature, who has a meteorite that's out there that could really straighten our souls.
Yeah, if I can add to what you said there, Bill, about small scale conflicts. Two people are having a fist fight, and the next thing you know, you've got nuclear weapons involved. Look, I think that a big part of the reason that happens, if we talk about what's been going on in Syria, isn't because the small conflict between one side and the other side in Syria has blown up into anything. It's because two major powers got involved, namely in the Syrian conflict, it was Russia and the United States. You got two members of the Security Council, and if you sort of split the Security Council up, you sort of have, largely speaking, Russia and China that are a little bit more politically aligned. You've got the United States and the United Kingdom, which are obviously more politically aligned, and the French. I'm not really sure what their part of this is, but they're in there somewhere. So when you've got Security Council members that are injecting themselves into a fight, it then just becomes a big show of power. I've got the bigger weapon, I've got the bigger plane. And I think that is why some of these things do become quite big. But again, we don't know how much bigger they could have been without having diplomatic channels, without having the United Nations and the Vienna Convention, so diplomats can travel freely and be protected and all that sort of stuff, in order to try and negotiate out some things.
No, Shaquille, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's very tough to prove the unknown. And I'm not discounting the unknown because, quite frankly, intuitively, I believe that you're right. And it's understandable that it's what we don't know we should appreciate. However, the question still remains that which is in front of us, which are the conflicts. I mean, how do we go about just focusing it, assigning responsibility to the UN and right at the international level, the major powers could do a little bit more to be more of the grown-ups in the room trying to lead these things, these smaller conflicts. But what message do we send to the people, the billions of people that are watching on this program on the Day of International Peace, that we can concretely say to them, hey, how can they approach either breaking things down or taking some time off or meeting at the tables with or without the major powers? Because it really shouldn't be up to them. Just like you said, it shouldn't be necessarily up to the UN. We can't go constantly blaming one central authority. But I guess
I personally think that one of the powerful things that big countries can do, and I actually say this even in relation to two big powerful countries, United States and China, rather than putting tariffs on each other, we should really have two-way trade. So there's a lot of, especially after coronavirus, there's a lot of people that will say things like, we should stop buying stuff from China. What we should be doing is selling more stuff to them, because at the moment we're buying from them and there's a trade deficit with most Western countries. And I would say the same thing with those poor countries, with those impoverished countries, those countries that are experiencing some level of political turmoil. One of the things that you can do is make sure that those people aren't so desperate by actually trading with them and not doing it in an exploitative way like we've done in Bangladesh with textile manufacturing and things like that, but actually doing so where, we're saying, hey, look, it's going to be cheaper for us and it's going to be income for you to make shoes and for us to make shirts. Whatever the case may be, and actually trading with them and then showing them how to set up their own businesses. A lot of the issues with some countries that have widespread poverty is they don't actually have a very good system of laws. They don't actually have a system of ownership where I own this property or I own that land or whatever the case may be. And so a lot of the times those are some of the issues that are in play. And if we can tackle those and encourage them to trade with us, bilateral trade with us, I think that both parties will be much better off, but they'll be even better off comparatively.
No, and I understand that, and you're absolutely right in that approach. And frankly, that was contained in a book called The Lexus and the Olive Tree. I believe it was written by Tom Friedman that said, and it's actually, he did a great work on this that showed that the more economically tied together various nations are, the lower the prospect or probability of conflict breaking out. And I think one of his famous lines in the book, and I'm just paraphrasing this, was simply that, if you, go to China and you find a McDonald's, it's less likely that they're going to be fighting in other places. Now, that having been said, because you're right on that, increased economic activity and ties lessens the desire to just blow everything up. But the question becomes, since people have been actually following that for quite some years, globalization and such, we still have the advent of these conflicts that are being spread by other things, ideological differences, regional differences, tribal things, religious functions. And so I know it's a tough problem, but it seems to me that this is the day that we ought to really kind of talk about, at least, or raise those issues. Clearly, we haven't been able to solve it, not even our forefathers, for the entire time that, human beings have been alive, those kinds of things. But you're right, Shaquille, and that would be the Lexus and the olive tree. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, I think that part of the issue actually is that it becomes somewhat difficult to say, look, be like us, and look at how we're leading by example, if we have disunity or we have bad outcomes within our own society. I'm not just talking about more recent events with Black Lives Matter since George Floyd's death has obviously been a very divisive thing, but even before that, it's very difficult to go to a place like North Korea that claims, and it's very difficult to disprove it, they claim that, hey, at least when our people get old, we still look after them because we have communism/socialism in our country. And we sit here in the West and we let our older people, and there's many more of them now, the baby boomers are getting older, these people are often left with very little resources. So, we have to be able to lead by example. And one of those, yes, is obviously the economic stuff that we talked about, but it's also about making sure that people aren't feeling too much desperation in their everyday lives. As far as people having an ideology, look, sometimes it takes a couple of generations for that to end. But a big part of that as well is making sure that people don't feel as though they have been unfairly treated or they've had a bad outcome, and that their lives are going to be not as good as they otherwise would be, and their children's lives are going to be not as good as what it otherwise would be because of that guy over there or this tribe over here. That's the stuff that I think we need to focus on in order to be able to reduce some conflicts. But look, we're never going to have 100% world peace. We can strive towards that, but there's always going to be some issues, especially things that carry on from the past.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Shaquille. You can't end it all. However, it seems to me that some of the ideas that you're raising, I think everybody would agree with, but that would also require each country to go through and start to change their policies. And so it's like a day like this where we reflect and see how we can do better. It's not only individually, although that's very important because individuals often lead to change by making a personal commitment, but it's also looking at least our own domestic national policies when it comes to these other foreign conflicts by placing priorities on policies that are not going to end up punishing the people in the very countries, either with trade or anything else, such that they don't become marginalized, and then they don't see violence as the sole alternative or avenue for their own advancement, as it were. But I think that requires the hard discussions in each of the nations where we have to actually go in and Nick, I think you actually said this to me once. You said, Bill, can you ask tough questions of very important people and not be afraid? And I think that's kind of the question that we as citizens in each of our own countries have to do. Can we ask questions of our own government about our own policies that increase the likelihood that there's going to be a conflict some other place because, Shaquille, when you point out that we're just treating somebody fundamentally unfairly.
Can I just say very quickly, and I think we'll say later on your guests, but I'll just say very quickly that before New England became the Democratic People's Republic of New England, and then changed its name to the United States, it had a conflict with old Mother England and Canada. And that was a pretty serious conflict, and there was a lot of division. And the Americans been through this before and since with the Civil War and various things. But you know what? It hasn't been that long, and the UK and the United States are really good friends now. And that's exactly the point, that just because a conflict occurred a couple of 100 years ago, it doesn't mean that we need to be carrying that conflict on and making sure that our great-grandchildren still have that. And what we should be doing, I think, is encouraging other countries to say, look, tell your young people this is something that happened 100 years ago, but that's not where we are anymore.
Yeah, and Ben has just joined us from Switzerland, and you advise, Ben, world leaders. Do you ever advise them on how to do things peacefully, or do they even listen to you on that?
Yeah, exactly. The issue is not about the peace. I mean, everybody thinks peace is absence of war. But I think peace is working at removing the reasons of the war. That's one of the things that we do at the East-West Institute, working at reasons and working at causes which can create a war. For example, if you look at it now, we are entering the phase that by 2025, most probably two-thirds of the world population will have scarcity of water. That means we are heading into a place where the wars will be caused due to water shortage. And we have seen historically how many wars we have had with oil, and water is going to be far more dangerous. So I think we have to keep on working very strongly at removing the causes for the future wars. And we have a lot of wars going on at this moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
and the water issue is a big issue that people are not really looking at, Ben. But I'm shocked that you're actually looking at it, because I'm sure Paul is looking at it, but he's one of the few people who actually look at stuff like that, But that's really Cattell. What do you do? Cattell, you're in the United States now, so what do you do for peace?
For me, peace is like, having an opportunity or giving an opportunity to people to work with any company over the world, all over the world. Like, especially right now, lot more things going on. Like, the government is like banning few technical company or technology company, right, to having a business in other countries or like in the US and stuff like that. So for me, it's like peace is like, let them work the way they want to. They are following all the country's guidelines. So, rather do not create your political agenda there and stop all this, because as I said, now we all are in this frame, right? Come from a different background, different company, different world, right? Parts of the different world. So now, we are connected. That's what we need in terms of peace. And especially as I'm in the fintech guy, working in the payment industry, right? I basically provide a solution all over the world, right? So for me, it's like peace is like, let us have opportunity to work in the different country, different regions, and follow the guideline, and make money for everyone, and basically transfer money for everyone. That's what the goal is.
You love the fintech area, admit it. You love fintech.
Yeah, I love. Whenever you talk about money, I love that part.
Okay, well, I'm going to get out my credit card and go buy some things at the Family Dollar store. You love stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I already ordered a lot of stuff from Family Dollar store already.
Okay.
Yeah. Bravo! I hope Lynn's listening.
We have to get an international shipping to Australia.
Right. Oh, well, yeah, and they don't have the Family Dollar store in Australia or India yet. And I forgot to invite Lynn on any of these programs, Kim. Should I have done that? He's our sponsor.
Well,
I guess I should have.
Kit has taken care of that.
Right, yeah.
No, it's just we have a protocol.
Lynn joined us at 9 in the morning.
Oh, he is? Okay. Oh, I was just
You won't believe we already have 25 people joined us from around the world before you showed up on Peace Day.
Oh yeah, I noticed that. It was so full. I was going, no one could get in. Actually, Shaquille couldn't get in. He emails me, I'm blocked, and I'm going, well, I'm blocked too.
And I can't get in.
Hey, Paul. I think it's all Paul's fault because he's making peace more popular. This is his problem. And so the thing is, if he keeps it up, he's blocking our entries. We're going to have to figure out what to do with it. We'll put him in the center. It's all his fault. And we have a big program coming up at 11 o'clock. I think we feed into something else. I don't even know how it works technically. And then at 1 o'clock, we start again for the people that want to show up here for IBM TV. We got a big lineup coming on at 1 o'clock. Yeah, Paul.
Well, I'll just add that big program is our Peace Day Party 2-hour broadcast that we normally do in Times Square.
Oh, really?
We start off, it's the 2020 virtual Peace Day, Peace, Love, Hope, and COVID. And this is one powerful 2 hours of people doing unbelievable work in the world of peace. We have the Michael Douglases and the Stevie Wonders and the Leonardo DiCaprios and the Shakiras and the John Lennons and all the big names that are so involved with the world of peace. Now I'm going to go live also. And basically, we have very wise people talking about peace. You have your people in Australia, you have young children, you have the environment. You have our 2019 concert. And so I'm pretty proud of what we put together, because we're just putting together you. You are in there for a 5-minute piece. We're, those people that are just kind of doing it, are care enough about doing it. And that's the key here. You just want to hang out with those that are doing it and try to get a couple more to join in each and every day. And the more, as John Lennon says, imagine, it's building upon the world of peace. And as I said earlier on, 1.6 billion people are aware of this day. We just need to, emphasize the point. And you guys, thank you for allowing Good News to be on. Just listen to the first singer. And then once you hear this girl, this woman, Teresa, sing the preamble of the Declaration of Independence, which is everybody's independence, right? Everybody is independent, okay? Even if you're in a concentration camp, you're still independent. Anybody that ever got out of a concentration camp, and you can talk to Finkel, you can talk to all these smart people, they kept their brain. It's in your brain, right? No one can take it out of your brain. They can pop you in the head, they can step in you, they can shoot you. But you still can end up with your own thoughts about what life should be for you or the way you want to see the world. So today is a day for world peace. We're strengthening, our group is strengthening the message of the United Nations, whether you like the United Nations, don't like the United Nations, whether you're part of the United Nations, whether you're Taiwan and got kicked out of the United Nations, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's meaningless. I'll get back to my picture from the moon. We're all in it together. There's no boundaries, no borders.
And we're doing it virtually, and we're going to be off the. Well, we're not off the air. We're moving over to that feed. I was going to ask Ankit, how are we doing this electronically? But the next 2 hours is going to be through. Where's Ankit? See, I don't know how they do it. They do all the technology in India.
Take you off. You have your main feed, and they push the button, and then they watch the show for 2 hours.
Well, let's ask Ankit. He knows how all this technology works.
My niece beamed in and said hi, man.
Yeah, but we have 4 minutes, Ankit. Then we're off the air. Somehow we die here, and then this other feed comes in. How does all that stuff work anyway? Do I have to leave here and go to another place to see IBM TV?
People can watch our shows on IBM.tv and also on our social media channels starting from 3 minutes from now. And all the feed is on all the platforms available.
Okay, so it's on the platform. So I can watch it on IBM TV and Facebook and YouTube. Okay, and all the social media platforms. So, all right. And then we just automatically die here at 11 o'clock? Is that what happens?
We have to die ourselves. We have to wrap the show, and then we'll start another show at 1 o'clock.
Right, we'll re-beam in on 1 o'clock, but in 3 minutes we only have 3 minutes.
love this tech talk between Nick and Ankit.
I'm not a tech guy. I am not. I am not a tech guy.
So let me ask you a tech. So this is not going to be your feed. We're not on the feed now. We're just on this conference call, right? So I'm going to have to go to IBM.tv, right? This is a Zoom call or your own.
No, this is being beamed in like 122 countries right now, Paul.
Yeah, Paul.
It's our
Don't worry too much about the few 100,000 people watching, Paul. It's fine.
I understand it. The actual broadcast, and you're switching from this feed to your IBM.tv, right?
Exactly.
So guys,
Right. Okay. Right. That's what's going on because
IBM TV to my Facebook community. So I'm going to get off and go IBM.tv.
I guess you got to go to IBM.tv if you want to watch it direct.
I want to watch it direct.
Okay, right. Yeah. So in 2 minutes.
We are on the backstage, and somebody's taking over the front stage. That is a line we need to use on Peace Day.
Is that
rather than dying? We are dying here.
We're not dying. I thought we're dying. Okay, we'll be resurrected at 1 o'clock.
You and Ben joined, they were like, right, that's it. We're pulling the feed, we're putting everyone backstage. We're blaming you guys for this.
Yep.
Yeah. We have 1 minute before we die. 1 minute.
Everybody say Happy International Day of Peace. And thank you for watching us here. We're switching over to another link. So all you have to do is on Facebook, go watch us on another link. Thank you, Madison, for dialing in and saying hi. But real quick, everyone say what. peace.
But Kim, before we wrap up, we have some videos to play. We didn't get time to play it, so these are a couple of minutes videos. So let me just get it started.
Okay.
Peace is all about being lovable and creating blissful, joyful, and healthy world.
IBM TV, thank you for celebrating the International Day of Peace. Peace means serenity to me. When I love myself more, I can love others better. Today, it's about co-parenting. Have a great day.
World Peace Day.
Peace. When you start thinking about the world like you think for yourself, there'll be definite peace.
Peace for us begins with a smile. Peace is its own reward.
Peace is the concept of societal friendship and harmony in the absence of hostility and violence.
Peace is taking responsibility of our actions and doing our bit.
Peace is possible. World peace. It means that we're going to love each other regardless of skin color, race, gender, and all that good stuff, man. World peace, you know, what we have to do is come together and help each other and lift each other up. It really does take a village, you know. World peace, you know, we need to stop worrying about our differences and start understanding the things that we all have in common.
When we love and respect one another, peace happens.
Okay, I'm going to go to the IBM feed. We have this also on Good News Planet and Peace Day Party. And let's see if this IBM feed is working. IBM dot.
Months ago, my team and I made this next song in an effort to raise awareness towards climate change, sustainability, and world peace. Well, when COVID hit, we had to take a step back, not only as individuals, but as nations, as an entire human race. It is my aim and goal to share this song with all of you in an effort to once again remind us just how fragile life is, our planet is, our entire existence, and the generations to come. As a Canadian of Greek heritage, it pains me to see the political and geographical battles arising in my motherland once again. As a world traveler and family friend to many in the Lebanese community, it pains me to see the recent explosions and devastation. As a Canadian citizen, it pains me to see our First Nations brothers and sisters still challenged for their lands. And I can't leave out the horrendous fires in California, a place I have not been able to visit in a while, especially now as I'm quarantining in my home in Toronto. Most of all, as a global citizen, it pains me to know that we could be doing so much more to help protect and save our planet. So today, I hope we can put aside our differences, knowing that we can't agree on everything, but at least this. Please join me in solidarity, as one, worldwide, to make a change for the better, for all of humanity. Here is Be the Change.
If you could bend the hands of time, would you alter any moment in your life? If you could spin the wheel of fate, would you try to clean this mess up that we made? Tears falling, hearts cry out to anyone who'll hear them out. And if we knew then what we know now, would you carry any doubt? Why are we living our lives out this way? Why do we refuse to make any change? I keep thinking about
Hi, I'm Eugene Draw, Dr. Draw, originally from Russia. Been living in Canada for many, many years. I've crossed out the world and met a lot of amazing people. My talent's taken me pretty much everywhere. And I've realized that the world is a much better place when we all act as one. Here's a little inspirational piece that I'm gonna improvise for you right now. Thank you.